We start in New York City, where renowned surgeon Dr. Stephen Strange, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, is in the middle of a delicate brain operation at the hospital that he works at. As he finishes, his ex-girlfriend, Dr. Christine Palmer, played by Rachel McAdams, rushes in to show him an x-ray of a patient with a bullet in his brain. While initially believing the case to be hopeless, some further prodding from Christine, he decides that the patient is comatose because his medulla oblongata has been poisoned by trace elements in the bullet. Strange then realizes that he can save the man's life and goes to the ER surgery room and quickly does a manual extraction with forceps, thus demonstrating his impressive hand control. Strange's fellow doctor, Nicodemus West, played by Michael Stolberg, is left humiliated by Strange's overwhelming ego and also overwhelming success. Time passes, and Strange and Christine joke about their on-again, off-again relationship. As she turns down his request to join him that evening, he dresses for the evening in his expensive condo, pausing to choose from a drawer full of high-end watches. Driving somewhat recklessly, he speeds out of his condo in his Lamborghini, and Strange then heads north. He calls an assistant to consider his next patients. While Strange himself is in high demand, he wants only difficult yet interesting cases. Distracted and once again driving recklessly, he crashes and the car plunges into the river. His car is wrecked, and his hands slam into the dashboard. Strange is then airlifted back to the hospital, and Christine is there when he awakens, badly hurt. His hands have had to be rebuilt and are immobilized in a framework of pins and wires. He recovers slowly after further surgeries, but his hands remain stiff and shaky. Strange is a broken man as he learns he can no longer work as a neurosurgeon. Strange, in a bout of self-pity, breaks it off with Christine permanently. He then hears about a man called Jonathan Pangborn, played by Benjamin Bratt, who inexplicably recovered from a half-body paralysis. Strange finds Pangborn playing basketball, and the man tells him he found the cure in Carmartage. Strange travels Nepal and wanders the streets of Kathmandu, where he's assailed by muggers who attempt to beat him up and steal his stuff. He is then saved by a sorcerer named Karamordo, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. Strange is then taken to meet the Ancient One, who knows all about Strange and introduces him to an alternate reality where many hidden universes and dimensions can be harnessed for power and mystical guidance. He begins training and slowly learns to open gates to jump across the world. He learns the temple is part of a secret group saving the world from enemies in other dimensions and universes where the Avengers cannot help. During training, Mordo shows Strange a magic stick, a relic that can be used as a weapon, and says relics must choose their user. He then goes on to talk about Caecilius, a former student of the Ancient One who had stolen a spell from a book and escaped with 3 zealots. There is a good amount of worry that he's going to decipher the spell and call in the dark entity of Dormammu from the dark dimension to take over the world. Strange is upset and says he hasn't come to join their group, only to cure his hands. Strange then visits Carmartage's library, which is kept by Wong, played by Benedict Wong. Strange becomes a voracious student, borrowing and reading many books from the humorless Wong. When he asked about the book that Caecilius was after, Wong explains that it's reserved for use only by the Sorcerer Supreme, and is the one that Caecilius stole pages from. Strange then masters creating portals, and he ends up stealing more books from the library and goes on to learn about astral projection. One night when Wong appears to be out of the library, Strange learns how to use a time-shifting pendant called the Eye of Agamotto. This enables him to see the missing page from the book. Mordo and Wong tell him it is forbidden to use time spells, as they can cause time loops that a wielder can be stuck in forever, and also let evil forces into their universe. Wong then goes on to explain that there are 3 sanctums, one in London, one in New York, and one in Hong Kong, where the group watches out for the world. He then goes on to explain who Dormammu is in his history, that he's a purely evil being bent on conquering all the known worlds and that Earth has long been his ultimate target, yet he's kept failing each time. Caecilius finally deciphers the stolen spell, and his group attacks the London Sanctum, a plain building with a logo window. The attack on the London Sanctum throws Strange through a door and into the New York Sanctum. The building is completely deserted as he wanders the floors looking at various artifacts. He notices a red and burgundy cloak in a glass case that moves as he looks at it. At the end of a corridor, he finds 3 glass doors that turn out to be gateways to other places, with the destination being changed by turning a dial next to each door. Caecilius and his group next attack the New York Sanctum. Strange develops fighting skills on the fly, and he gets rid of 2 zealots using the gateways and the burgundy cloak, a relic which seems to have some intelligence and wraps itself around him. With the aid of the cloak, he subdues the 3rd minion and restrains Caecilius in an antique binding rack. Strange and Caecilius have a talk about the Ancient One and immortality, in which Caecilius claims that the Ancient One has achieved her long life using powers specifically from the Dark Dimension. Strange then lets down his guard, and the third zealot revives and stabs him. Strange manages to open a gate and stagger into a janitor's closet in Christine's hospital. A shocked Christine gets him on a table and begins to work on him, draining the excess blood from around his heart. Meanwhile, Strange separates his astral body and continues to fight the minion, finally killing him with the help of Christine, who shocks him with a defibrillator, killing the minion. The minion isn't visible to Christine, but she can tell something is going on and she's pretty spooked to say the least. Now on the mend, Strange tells Christine he has to return and goes back through the gate, leaving her shocked once again. Caecilius has escaped and Mordo joins Strange in New York. The Ancient One also comes and suggests Strange takes over the New York Sanctum. They've not only been impressed by his progress, but also that the magical cave known as the Cloak of Levitation has chosen him. However, Strange is reluctant to take the position until they tell him more about Caecilius, and also about the Ancient One's use of dark magic to prolong her life. Caecilius then returns with reinforcements, and Strange creates a mirror dimension to contain the fight, which then spills out into the streets. Caecilius then uses his powers to shapeshift the city in an attempt to disorient Strange. The Ancient One returns to help, but she falls and is mortally wounded. While Strange attempted to take her to Christine's hospital, it's far too late. Strange follows the Ancient One's spirit in his astral form and they talk overlooking New York City. She accepts this as her end and suggests Strange can take over. Back in the New York Sanctum, Strange and Mordo realize that Hong Kong is next on Caecilius' list. Once they reach the Hong Kong Sanctum, they realize that it's been compromised and that destructive force is enveloping the city. Wong, who was guarding it, has been killed, and Dormammu's dark dimension is growing from the location of the Sanctum. Strange then uses the Eye of Agamotto to start reversing the process, but Caecilius recovers and manages to stun Strange, stopping the process before it can complete. Rather than try reversing time again, Strange opts to actually go into Dormammu's dark dimension. There he confronts Dormammu, and unknown to Dormammu has trapped him in an infinite time loop. Dormammu then proceeds to kill Strange in various and sometimes humorous ways, but every time that Strange dies, time is always reset to the start of the confrontation. Dormammu is absolutely furious, but does agree to Strange's condition to leave Earth alone in return for stopping the time loop. Strange then returns to his dimension and sends Caecilius and his minions back into the dark dimension just before it vanishes. The ending isn't happy, however, as Mordo is upset that Strange broke the rules in using the time pendant, and finding out that the Ancient One used what he considers to be forbidden powers to prolong her life. The Ancient One had given Strange a warning that Mordo was very strict with his rules. While this is both a weakness and a strength, he didn't agree with Strange's flexibility in using his magic. Therefore, he decided to leave, swearing there would be a reckoning. Strange then takes over the New York Sanctum. After putting the Eye of Agamotto back in its guarded place at Camartage, Wong then reveals that the Eye is actually an Infinity Stone, one of the 6 Infinity Stones in the universe. This one being the Time Stone. Our Marvel credits then roll, and then our Marvel post-credit scenes play. In this scene, Mordo visits Pangborn and strips him of the magic that he uses to walk. Mordo has no sympathy as Pangborn collapses in a heap. All he says is that Earth has too many sorcerers. And that is the video for today, everybody.